Chapter 1400. Dustless was speechless. Even though he knew that sect leader Luo was a little narcissistic, he did not expect it to be this exaggerated. How could a young lady like you, who was ignorant of worldly affairs and lived in the mountains all year round, have any fans? Give me a reasonable explanation, or else. Luo Hao aimed at a towering mountain in the distance and slapped it without hesitation. Boom! 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 A huge explosion resounded through the clouds. The majestic mountain instantly disintegrated, turning into thousands of particles that scattered in all directions. This was not a 100-meter-tall mountain, but a piece of soft tofu. Amazing! Dustless nodded secretly and could not help but give a thumbs up. He had a vague understanding of Luo Hao's strength. As one of the god slayers, she was not to be underestimated. Of course. Don't you know who I am? Hearing this, Luo Hao's eyes flashed with a smug look. Then, she remembered her business and said in an unfriendly tone, "However, you have not answered my question. I will give you 3 seconds. If you don't give me an explanation, I guarantee that you will suffer a fate worse than death." 3, 2, 1. She gathered a powerful force in her palm and was about to slap Dustless to death when an indignant voice suddenly sounded. "To tell you the truth, I am here to become your disciple because of your reputation." Dustless randomly found a lame excuse and put on a look of deep hatred. With a twisted face, he said hatefully, "My name is Dustless, and my mother was a witch. However, 4 years ago, she was unfortunately captured by the god slayer of Eastern Europe, Marquis Oben. He forced my mother and other witches to hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience. After the ritual was successful, my mother was buried with him. Even though I hate him to death, I am powerless to take revenge. After all, he is a legendary god slayer, and I am just a mortal. I heard that Marquis Oben and sect leader Luo Hao are old enemies, so I came all the way here to become your disciple." "I see. You want to use me as a tool to deal with that guy?" Luo Hao glared and asked in an unfriendly tone. She reluctantly accepted Dustless's explanation. "Marquis Oben did hold a ritual to summon the god of disobedience 4 years ago and indirectly caused the deaths of many witches. Dustless's mother might be one of them. You should at least wait for me to finish." Dustless complained gloomily in his heart, but on the surface, his face was full of hatred. He said, "Cult Master Luo, you misunderstood me. I'm here to take you as my master. I only hope to learn a trade and take revenge in the future." Dustless was actually quite tempted by the godslayer profession. Who wouldn't be tempted to kill a god and obtain their exclusive authority? Dustless had killed countless gods, but not a single one of them had obtained any authority. This world isn't bad. Who knows, I might be able to increase my strength. As expected, ugly faces have no rights. Handsome faces have a bright future. Could it be that my eyes were playing tricks on me? Luo Hao wiped the corner of his eyes and said in confusion. Just now, Wu Chen was still a mess. His face was black and his hair was messy. Now, after washing in the water, he looked brand new. He looked like 2 different people. Chapter 1401. Time flew by, and a day had passed in the blink of an eye. In Luo Hao's small nunnery, there were no luxurious furnishings that belonged to the modern world. Instead, they were all retro decorations. This can barely be considered her boudoir. Dustless smiled faintly. His eyes focused on Luo Hao, who was sitting in front of him. He asked the most important question, "Do I have a chance to become a godslayer?" Everything else was trivial. This question was the most important. It did not mean that you could become a godslayer just by killing a god. That would at most be considered as having the title of a godslayer, but you would not be able to obtain their authority. There would be no point in killing a god. You can't. Luo Hao gave a short and straightforward answer. I understand your desire for revenge, but cultivation is a daily thing. Becoming a godslayer is even more illusory for you. You need a special medium. Hearing this, Dustless was refreshed. He asked expectantly, that is to say, as long as I find the medium, I can become a godslayer. That's right. Luo Hao nodded seriously and explained, I can teach you martial arts. If you practice for a long time, your strength will also be enhanced. My disciple Lu Yinghua is the same. Dustless nodded gently. It was a fact that martial arts could strengthen the body. Take Luo Hao's disciple Lu Yinghua for example. Even some godslayers were not as strong as him. Then learn martial arts. Dustless had no choice but to compromise and agree. Although martial arts were superfluous to him, it was not impossible to deal with Luo Hao. He still needed to get other information from her. Dustless already had a plan in mind to become a godslayer. The Prometheus Secret Manual of Kusanagi Protector was the best medium. He just needed to rob it. Come with me. Luo Hao said and turned to leave the nunnery. Teaching Dustless martial arts here was definitely not possible. The space was too narrow. She might tear down her house if she was not careful. On the spacious grassland, Luo Hao and Dustless stood side by side. In front of them were countless mountains. Watch carefully. Luo Hao raised her palm once again. She raised her palm casually, and immediately, she slapped out with a seemingly weak and powerless palm. Boom! 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 In the distance, the mountain that was used as a target was instantly blasted into nothingness and razed to the ground. Try it now, Luo Hao ordered. With twitching lips, Dustless asked with a darkened face, you haven't taught me how to test it yet. Even though breaking a mountain was a piece of cake for him, why don't you teach me how to do it? You're right. Luo Hao suddenly understood. He did not expect to forget such an important matter. Soon after, his eyes narrowed into slits. He smiled cunningly and said, then I will seriously impart knowledge to you. First, you need a strong body. Otherwise, you won't be able to practice anything. That makes sense. Dustless nodded undeniably. The body was the capital of everything. It was the same no matter which world it was in. Without a body made of iron, it was possible to be KO'd by the enemy. Then I'll train you now. Luo Hao vanished in the blink of an eye. All that could be seen was a black shadow. When she reappeared, she was already right in front of Dustless and her fist was smashing towards him. Whoosh! Luo Hao thought that it would be easy to hit Dustless. Who would have thought that at the critical moment, Dustless actually dodged it? His reaction was so fast that even Luo Hao was stunned. Just like that. And what does this have to do with training the body? Dustless asked speechlessly. My direct disciples are trained like this. You are no exception. Raising her fist in a show of force, Luo Hao had a serious expression on her face. At the same time, she said in surprise, but then again, it's really surprising that you were able to dodge it just now. Dustless's expression inevitably stiffened. He quickly explained, my mother is a witch. She taught me basic fighting skills. My reaction speed is pretty good. I can see that. Hearing this, Luo Hao slowly nodded. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been blown away by her punch. However, Dustless was actually able to snatch it. It was really not bad. It's not over yet. Luo Hao shouted. She gently lifted her toes and her body completely ignored the existence of gravity. Like the wind, she floated in front of Dustless. Qinggong. That's not bad. Dustless praised. He calmly stared at Luo Hao's fist that was smashing towards him. He couldn't help but sympathize with Lu Yinghua. It was really a tragedy to have such a violent master. Whoosh! Turning his head indifferently, Dustless once again dodged Luo Hao's fist. Not only that, his right leg swept out. Bang! Luo Hao was immediately repelled by Dustless's kick. Although both of them had suppressed their strength to the limit, Luo Hao still felt that her arms were a little sore. Your strength is unexpectedly great. Your reaction is also like a monster. You, not bad. Luo Hao stood with her hands behind her back and commented. She had a celestial aura and had the demeanor of a peerless master. Of course, I will take revenge in the future. Maybe the little universe will be. No, it will be my dantian that will explode. Dustless quickly corrected himself. Unexpectedly, Luo Hao pursed her lips and smiled, which made him a little absent-minded. This master seems to be not bad. He looked at Luo Hao without batting an eyelid. Although she was a little violent, it was indeed for his sake. Although it was a little boring now, it wasn't bad. At least he wouldn't feel bored and impatient. Anyway, Dustless also needed time to understand this world. In the past, he had only seen it in novels and television. Now, he had to experience it for himself. Don't be in a daze during a battle. Luo Hao rushed out. Chapter 1402. This time, it was sect leader Luo Hao's turn to be dumbfounded. Although she didn't use her full strength, Dustless still defeated her easily. Just how strong is this kid? Luo Hao said in disbelief. The afterimages of the exploding fists were especially eye-catching in her eyes. She locked onto Dustless suspiciously. Judging from Dustless's movements and speed, as well as his calm and confident aura, he didn't seem like someone who had practiced simple combat techniques. If you don't come, then I won't hold back. 100 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters, 1 meter. The distance of several hundred meters was covered in just 4 to 5 seconds. It was unbelievably fast. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crazy explosions landed on Luo Hao's body, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. So soft. Dustless's punches suddenly landed on some awkward parts, and his attacks inevitably paused. That sinful touch made him want to stop, and his mind was shaken. He subconsciously retracted his arm, and his face turned green, indicating that he really didn't mean it. Not bad. Why did you stop? Luo Hao asked. She looked at Dustless, who had a conflicted expression, and was puzzled. You didn't notice? Dustless asked in surprise. He then heaved a sigh of relief. Perhaps it was because Luo Hao was so focused that she didn't realize that she was being taken advantage of by Dustless. Even though she said it wasn't intentional. In reality, what Dustless didn't know was that Luo Hao had also noticed that her chest had been attacked. However, she didn't pay much attention to it. After all, it was inevitable. If they were really on the battlefield, it would definitely be a life and death battle. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. It didn't matter what methods were used, as long as they could win. Therefore, Luo Hao didn't pay much attention to it. Instead, she was puzzled as to why Dustless had stopped attacking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that Dustless had stopped attacking, Luo Hao darted dozens of meters away and pounced over like a gust of wind. Swish, swish, swish. Her jade-like leg swept out and kicked toward Dustless's shoulder. Due to her posture, the view under her skirt was undoubtedly revealed. Damn, it's actually black. Dustless's eyes lit up. He wanted to take a few more glances, but who would have thought that Luo Hao's small foot would kick over? Bang bang bang. Dustless, who was completely attracted by the scene that was not suitable for children, did not have time to defend himself and was sent flying back dozens of steps. That shouldn't be the case. Based on your strength, you should be able to withstand my attacks. Why were you pushed back by me? Luo Hao frowned in confusion. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless coughed awkwardly and said seriously, "Horses make mistakes, and people make mistakes. This is very normal." "Is that the reason?" Luo Hao asked suspiciously. She stared straight into Dustless's eyes, only to see his gaze darting around, not daring to meet her gaze. Clearly, he had done something wrong. Could it be? Suddenly, Luo Hao realized why Dustless had shown such an expression when she kicked him. Her little face flushed red as she finally understood why Dustless had shown such an expression. He had obviously seen something he shouldn't have. Humph. With a heavy snort, Luo Hao's expression changed. She said helplessly in a loud voice, "As expected, being a heavenly beauty is also a sin. Even my disciple is infatuated with me." Plop. Dustless stumbled and fell. He thought that he was narcissistic enough, but he didn't expect that when compared to Luo Hao, he would instantly become a weak chicken that was not worth mentioning. However, this is a very good breakthrough point. With a wicked smile, Luo Hao clearly thought of some weird idea. She looked at Dustless with evil intentions and thought of a good way to forcefully increase his strength. She said, "Why don't we make a deal?" "A deal?" Dustless frowned and stared at Luo Hao, who was smiling evilly. He asked, "Tell me about it." "If you can." Staring at Dustless for a few seconds, Luo Hao said cheerfully, "If you can defeat me, I won't stop you from doing whatever you want to me. Moreover, I will choose to unconditionally comply with your conditions." F***ck. You actually came up with such a sinister move to encourage this father to improve. Dustless cursed in his heart. Looking at that exquisite body, he suddenly felt that he should use all his strength to crush Luo Hao. Ahem. We are currently in a master-disciple relationship. Dustless waved his hand to remind her. Luo Hao was quite good to him. If he used all his strength to defeat her because of this dirty thing, his status in Luo Hao's heart would plummet. There's nothing wrong with it. After all, the strong are respected in this world. As long as you are stronger than me, it doesn't matter what you do to me. After all, everyone is like this. The real strong will not be bored enough to understand the feelings of others. Luo Hao saw through it quite clearly. The law of the jungle is the essence of every world. However, Dustless just smiled and was not tempted. Perhaps he can defeat Luo Hao by using Rinnegan Sharingan and using powerful Genjutsu, but it is completely unnecessary. If he wins, will Luo Hao really obey him? Maybe she will really obey him, but one thing is certain, Luo Hao must be full of resentment toward Dustless. Deceiving a person who treats you sincerely, no matter who the person is, you can't let it go. Human beings are such emotional creatures. No matter who it is, they hate liars very much, including Dustless himself. Although the time they spent together is very short, Dustless has a good feeling about Luo Hao, so he chose to continue to hide his strength. When he understands the basic knowledge of this world, he will leave Luo Hao's Mount Lu. Chapter 1403. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this time, Dustless had not left Luo Hao's Mount Lu, speeding up his learning of this world. His insatiable thirst for knowledge made Luo Hao shudder. But this was not the most perverted part. Bang! 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 A dull explosion was heard, and Luo Hao was forced to retreat. If she maintained the same strength as Dustless, Luo Hao would have no choice. She was no match for Dustless, and she would need to use more power to suppress Dustless. Dustless's recovery ability was an extreme existence that shocked the world. Sometimes, the injuries he suffered on the first day would be completely healed the next day. Of course, this was the result of Dustless deliberately delaying it. Based on his recovery ability with the body of 10 tails, he could recover in the next second. You have finished your apprenticeship, but it's a pity. Luo Hao sighed. Although Dustless's performance was very good, a god slayer was a god slayer, and a king was a king. Could a human surpass him just because he wanted to? It was obviously impossible, and Marquis Wabin was an extraordinary god slayer, so he had the most power among the god slayers, which indirectly meant that he had killed the most gods. Dustless could fight a human alone, but he was still far from being able to kill a god. Are you sure you want to leave? Luo Hao asked, her eyes inevitably dim. I've disturbed you for more than a month. It's time to leave. Dustless stretched and nodded slowly. When he was bored, he secretly created the White Zetsu army to scout for information all over the world. Kusanagi Protector was about to set off for Sardinia. If Dustless was late, Kusanagi Protector would become a god slayer ahead of time, and all his efforts would be in vain. Therefore, it was imperative to leave. As for Luo Hao, thinking of this, Dustless stared at the narcissistic girl. It was undeniable that she was extremely narcissistic and violent, but she was not as ferocious and terrifying as the world imagined. She was described as terrifying as a demon. In fact, Hierarch Luo would also show her cute side. Do you need me to send a disciple with you? No matter what, you are still their junior. Luo Hao suggested with a smile. In her eyes, Dustless would not be able to kill Marquis Warban even if he had 100 lives. I'm not a child who would get lost. Dustless curled his lips. He felt that Luo Hao was treating him like a child who had yet to grow up. Then you're on your own. Blinking his eyes, Luo Hao waved his hand and didn't stop him anymore. People had to spread their wings and soar. In Sardinia, Italy, a plane flew over from the distant horizon and landed safely at the airport. Passengers continuously disembarked from the plane. Dustless was also on this flight. It really does feel strange. The blue sky was cloudless, and the lazy and bright sunshine fell from the ninth heaven. Wuchen subconsciously raised his right arm to block the sunlight, and he always felt a little uncomfortable. That's... Dustless shifted his gaze slightly and suddenly noticed a familiar figure. She didn't know anyone in this world. Since she knew this person, it meant that she was already very famous. At least, she had left a deep impression on Dustless in the original work. The girl was wearing a long red dress. Her blonde hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her delicate little face was outlined with a charming smile. Her deep eyes were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets. Is this Erica Browntree? Dustless was slightly stunned. After a while, he said the girl's name. He was secretly delighted. I came at the right time. If I was a little late, Kusanagi Protector might have beaten me to it. Let's go and summon her. After thinking for a while, Dustless walked over. Chapter 1404. Erica Brantley, a 16-year-old girl from Milan, Italy. She had the title of Crimson Demon. She was the daughter of the Brantley family, a renowned family in the magic circle. She was one of the few people who knew how Hutterly became Campione. Erica belonged to the Red Cross, an Italian magic association. She had the rank of a Grand Knight and the alias of Crimson Demon. Her favorite sword was Lion King's Heart. She had learned iron forging, a spell that could freely manipulate iron objects. She was good at creating, transforming, destroying, and strengthening spells. Her ancestor was Campione, the Demon King. Dustless lowered his head and thought carefully about the girl's knowledge as he walked. He was carrying a simple suitcase that Luo Hao had prepared for him in advance. Bam! Perhaps because he was too focused, Dustless accidentally bumped into something. Sorry, When he raised his head and was about to apologize, Dustless realized that the person he bumped into was Erica. At this moment, she was observing Dustless carefully with her watery eyes. Young man, be careful next time. It can be troublesome to find your luggage if you lose it in an airport. Erica smiled politely and picked up Dustless's suitcase that he dropped. Perhaps because the zipper of the bag was undone, Erica happened to see what was inside the bag. You do have a special hobby. There was nothing else in the bag except thick books about the myths of various countries and the stories of natural disasters. Sorry, my name is Dustless. Nice to meet you. Taking the bag, Dustless smiled politely. The latter nodded and introduced in a low voice, Erica Brantley. It's indeed her. Erica will probably run into Kusanagi Hutterly soon. I have to rob him of his Prometheus secrets. Dustless rolled his eyes and left the airport side by side with Erica. He asked with a smile, to be honest, I'm quite fond of the myths of various countries in the world. I'm visiting Sardinia because I want to learn more about the local myths. I can tell. Erica nodded, but she was still lost for words. Your backpack is full of books about mythologies. You didn't even bring basic clothes. How much do you like those mythologies? Dustless shrugged. Sorry, I'll be leaving first. As if she had found an acquaintance, Erica hurried over. Before she left, she turned around and gave a charming smile to Dustless. See you again. We'll definitely meet again. Dustless nodded. His short answer was filled with confidence. A king and a knight are inseparable. What a strange fellow. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Erica felt that this guy was a little strange, but she couldn't tell what exactly. She had an indescribable feeling. In a dark corner. Caw caw caw. The white monster poked its head out from the ground and respectfully looked at the young man who had been waiting for a long time. Chapter 1405. Dustless didn't want to fight with Kusanagi Protector, so the name of Bullying the Weak was naturally replaced by Dustless by White Zetsu. Yo! White Zetsu approached Kusanagi Protector with a smile. His nondescript face was particularly terrifying. Gulp. Kusanagi Protector choked. To be honest, he was a little afraid of White Zetsu. After all, he had been living in human society. The two monsters in front of him did not belong to the category of human beings. One destroyed a building with a snap of the fingers, the other was White Zetsu. On the other hand, Kusanagi Protector was just a human. He was really a little surprised. Don't come over. Kusanagi Protector was forced to the corner, and the retreat behind him had been blocked by the ruins, and there was no escape. Little brat who hasn't grown up yet. Dustless couldn't help but sigh. If he called out the grimoire, everything would be fine. Isn't it good to be a human being? What's more, with the character of Kusanagi Protector, the profession of God Slayer, which almost lived all day long, was really not suitable for him. Ow 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 ow. At the same time, the sky on the other side suddenly shook violently, as if the ancient murderers had awakened, and everything in the world was trembling. This high-density power, it must be the wild boar of the war god. Dustless's eyes showed a look of understanding. He felt this power carefully and nodded secretly. It was not bad, and it was stronger than he imagined. Do it, White Zetsu. Influenced by the power of the wild boar, Dustless couldn't wait to order. Give it. White Zetsu heard the words and directly rushed over. Who would have thought that at this moment, the turbulent hurricane suddenly hit, like a sharp blade. Poochie. 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 White Zetsu's body was immediately torn apart, and it was ruthlessly cut into pieces like meat. You are witnessing such a scene. Dustless frowned and looked at it. In the tornado, a purple-haired boy with a cloak came into sight. He was quite similar to a god in Dustless's impression. Is this guy the god that Kusanagi killed? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light, and he still asked with uncertainty, that. Are you that, war god of the East, Welslana? Human. You actually know me. The purple-haired youth's bored eyes were filled with interest as he asked, what do you want? Are your subordinates planning to steal my slate? That's my slate. Dustless glared at him and corrected him. Then, he said gloomily, you're just a god. Listen up, if you don't want to die, get the hell away from me. What did you say? Did I hear it wrong? How dare you tell me to get lost? The purple-haired youth was stunned for a few seconds. Clearly, he was very surprised. This was the first time he had heard such a ridiculous phrase in his entire life. You didn't hear it wrong. I'll repeat it again. Get the hell away from me. Dustless repeated impatiently. He was just a god. Ha ha ha. Are you really human? I feel like you are a god. Your strength is ridiculously strong. Sure enough, it was right to give you the slate. Velaslana suddenly smiled like a madman. When he was about to attack again, a deafening sound spread throughout the world. Awe! The impact of the rage swept through the entire city. The buildings that were affected collapsed and turned into ruins and rubble. The strong vibration could be felt hundreds of meters away. This is, as if he realized something, Velaslana was overjoyed. When he was about to retreat, he suddenly stopped and asked, Human, what is your name? Dustless. Dustless. Velaslana murmured, then remembered it in his heart and said, I will let you see the power of a god someday. After that, Velaslana disappeared. Dustless turned a deaf ear to Velaslana's domineering declaration. He carefully stroked the rough slate in his hand and felt the unusual fluctuation of power. He said happily, This is the power of the white horse. No wonder he wanted the slate. Velaslana is very generous. He did not take the power of the white horse and gave it to me. Does he want to be defeated so badly and end the legend of invincibility? Dustless turned around and left with a smile. That guy over there, stop. Give me the grimoire in your hand. Don't force me to attack. A normal human is not my match. Just when he was about to walk out of the alley, a red figure descended from the sky and blocked Dustless's path. The crisp and pleasant voice obviously belonged to a female. Her long blonde hair danced even though there was no wind. Her round little mouth opened and closed. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her gem-like eyes were shining. Her movements were strong and agile. She did not have the natural weakness of a female. It's you. Dustless and the mysterious girl said at the same time. The girl who wanted to rob them was Erica, whom they met at the airport. She was pointing a small dagger at Dustless. Why is it this kid? Why does he have such a precious grimoire? Erica put down the dagger. She was also very surprised. After a few seconds of silence, Erica raised the dagger again and said seriously, Even though we've met once, I still hope that you can give this grimoire to me. Allah, Allah. I didn't expect Miss Erica to have such an unknown side. What will happen if I don't give it to you? Dustless asked with a smile. He was not afraid of the shiny dagger at all. He said very politely, Miss Erica, are you trying to force me to sell it? I really didn't expect you to have the talent to be a robber. A robber. Erica's lips obviously twitched. She explained in a more patient tone, the thing in your hands is very dangerous, and it may cause a disaster. So, please give it to me for safekeeping. For that, I can satisfy all your conditions. Chapter 1407. Hearing that, Dustless shook his head. How could he give up something that he had spent so much effort to obtain? Absolutely not. Sorry, Miss Erica, I can't do it. Dustless refused firmly and added, This is very useful to me. Useful to you. This time, it was Erica's turn to be strange. She seemed to have thought of something and covered her mouth with her small hand. Are you saying that you can use this grimoire? Of course. Dustless looked at Erica with clear eyes and nodded. I have successfully usurped an authority. The authority that Dustless mentioned was actually the white horse, which was deliberately left behind by Welslana. When it came to Dustless, it became his usurpation. After all, Erica didn't see it. Are you sure? Erica looked at Dustless suspiciously. This gigolo looked gentle and scholarly. The chance that he could kill a god was close to zero. Absolutely. Blinking, Dustless said seriously, Miss Erica, I have something else to do. Goodbye. Dustless passed through Erica's body. He really had something to ask Lucurezia Zola, the witch of Sardinia, a friend of Kazuichiro Kusanagi, the lord of Kusanagi Protectorate. With this stone slab, Wuchin could pretend to have a relationship and ask about some secrets. Wait. Erica jumped and moved like a cunning rabbit. In an instant, she appeared in front of Dustless again. She opened her hands and continued to block Dustless's way unreasonably. The difference in her eyes is like night and day. Noticing the change in Erica's eyes, Dustless chuckled in his heart. This king is indeed an existence above human beings. The obscure look in Erica's eyes was obviously respect. This was normal. In today's world, including Dustless, who had just become one of the god slayers, there were only 7 of them. Almost every one of them had unparalleled power. Luo Hao was one of them. You want to be my follower? Dustless asked jokingly. Sure, but the scene of you robbing me just now left a bad impression on me, Miss Erica. Who wants to be your attendant? A stinky toad lusting after swan meat. In your dreams. Erica pouted her lips and refused decisively. This guy is too arrogant. How dare he look down on me? I have to suppress his arrogance. Otherwise, how am I going to live in the future? Erica slandered in her heart. Is that so? Then I'll take my leave. Unfortunately, Dustless shrugged and brushed past Erica. Stop right there. Erica shouted. She pointed at Dustless's nose and said with great displeasure, You can leave if you want, but leave the grimoire behind and I will not stop you. Otherwise, please. At the end of the day, you still want to follow me. Dustless threw his backpack to Erica casually and stretched as he walked. Help me carry my luggage, and I can forgive your recklessness. Plop. Erica staggered and almost fell. How could this guy be so shameless? As a lady, she didn't let him carry her luggage, but this guy took the initiative. Hurry up and call your maid. Take us to Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless said as he walked. If he remembered correctly, Welslana would appear there. He had to hurry over and kill Welslana and become the real Godslayer instead of continuing to impersonate him. Maid? You mean Ariana? Erica walked to Dustless's side. In fact, when she heard that Dustless was willing to let bygones be bygones, she heaved a sigh of relief. Some kings were temperamental. Perhaps an inexplicable action would anger him, and then something bad would happen. He's here. The sharp-eyed Erica saw the red car approaching at high speed and heaved a heavy sigh. She was really afraid that this confused maid would get lost. To Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless took the initiative to get in the car as if it was his own home. Ariana was speechless. She thought to herself, this guy is not polite at all. A rude guy who doesn't know how to take care of a lady. Angrily throwing the backpack to Dustless, Erica also got into the car and said softly, Ariana, do as he says. A few seconds later, the car sped toward Lucurezia Zola's house at a high speed. Obviously, this witch was quite famous. Erica knew more about her than Dustless, who knew nothing about her. There was still some distance before they reached Lucurezia Zola's place. Dustless took out the books in his backpack to pass the time. No matter how interested I am, I can't take the car without seeing. It's not good for my eyesight. Erica frowned. She was sitting right next to Dustless and could naturally see the words on the books clearly. Dustless simply glanced at her casually. His words almost made Erica breathless in frustration. "I'm just choosing the power that suits me." Her lips twitching, Erica asked with a fake smile, "So, you're choosing which god to kill? Do you think this is grocery shopping?" In the end, Erica's tone was obviously several times higher than before. This guy's thoughts really gave him a headache. It was already a blessing from the heavens to be able to steal the authority of a god. To think that this guy had actually prepared a backpack full of mythological books. Moreover, they were all detailed introductions to the various gods. Could it be that he wanted to wipe out all the mythological systems? "Yes, I'm indeed choosing, but it's really disappointing. There doesn't seem to be any suitable ones. Only Welleslana's power is barely decent and suitable." Looking at the scenery outside the window, Dustless sounded more or less disappointed and gloomy. He suddenly felt that there were very few powers that he could use. He had most of them, and some of them were even better than those so-called gods. "You," Erica pointed at Dustless. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Dustless' tone was clearly saying that as long as he had the right authority, it wouldn't be a problem no matter how many gods he had. He followed the black cat all the way here and finally followed it up the stairs. On the sofa, a young woman wearing stockings and suspenders came into view. She was lying on her side. "Isn't this your friend's grandfather? Why is he so young?" Erica was speechless as she stared at Corazia Zola. She looked so young, as if she had regained her youth. Dustless took a few steps forward and handed the slate to Corazia Zola. "You should be familiar with this grimoire, right?" "More than familiar with it. I gave it to Ichiro." Corazia Zola's eyes flashed with nostalgia and the vicissitudes of life. She shook her head and said, "This grimoire is yours from now on. Leaving it with me will only cause endless trouble. I don't want to be the target of public criticism. Young man, it's yours." Why did Dustless find trouble with Kusanagi Protector? It was because of this slate. Therefore, for ordinary people, obtaining the slate would not bring them any benefits. Instead, it might cause them to be killed. And Corazia Zola looked at Dustless in surprise and said in surprise, "God seems to approve of you. Is there really the power of God?" Erica's eyes widened and her lips trembled. She thought Dustless was just bragging. She did not expect it to be true this time. So this guy succeeded in killing a god. Looking at the calm Dustless, Erica envied him from the bottom of her heart. Although she was a genius, all geniuses paled in comparison to God. In this world, there were too many things that geniuses could not do. For example, killing a god was something that 99% of humans could not do. Ah. Young man, you are not only handsome but also capable. You are so fascinating. I would love to have a good night with you. Corazia Zola swung her long legs and purposely exposed some of her private parts. Dustless was blind. Even Erica blushed, let alone a man. What a pervert. As if she had seen something dirty, Erica hurriedly turned her head to hide her embarrassment. She subconsciously looked at Dustless, but this guy was as calm as a steel mask. "Welleslana. That guy is so arrogant. He actually dared to give me his power." After a while, Dustless's words stunned Erica and Corazia Zola. They asked at the same time, "You haven't killed a god yet, but you've gained the power of a god?" "Indeed. That self-righteous god gave it to me for free." Dustless shrugged and told them the truth. "But it doesn't matter. Welleslana will soon become a thing of the past. You are so charming that even God is willing to give you his power. This is so unfair to those hard-working god slayers. Others relied on their strength to make a living. When it was Dustless's turn, God Slayers came to him voluntarily. Was he relying on his face to make a living? Chapter 1409. Face Recognition. Dustless sneered. That brat Wells Lana was trying to get himself killed. He purposely gave the privilege of the white horse to Dustless in the hopes that Dustless could defeat him. All in all, this grimoire belongs to you in the future. Look, Eurazia waved her hand as if Prometheus's secret grimoire was an unlucky star. Do you think you can take it back? Dustless rolled his eyes. He didn't need anyone's permission to do such a thing. Oh. What an unruly brat. You don't even know how to be polite. Look, Eurazia stood up and pointed at the room at the end of the corridor. She didn't care that her hot body was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It's late. You two can sleep in that room tonight. No problem. Dustless nodded and walked over with the grimoire. No, how can I sleep in the same room with him? Erica raised her hands in apology and complained, how can a lady sleep with an unruly? Then you can sleep on the sofa, Miss Erica. Dustless glanced at the arrogant Erica and interrupted her rudely. He shrugged and said, I like to sleep by myself. Goodbye. You. Erica stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Dustless to be so unreasonable and barbaric. He didn't even have the most basic gentlemanly demeanor. In the end, she had no choice but to follow Dustless. Is your brain made of stone? Erica mumbled after she caught up with Dustless. Someone like me, I'm a snobbish person. You'll kick me out if I talk about gentlemanly. Dustless said rudely. Only an idiot would sleep on the floor instead of the bed. Wells Lana will be fighting another god tomorrow, right? I need to rest up for now. Staying here was just waiting for Wells Lana to come knocking on his door. After all, the chances of finding these gods were slim. The only way was to wait for them to come knocking on his door. Creak. She gently pushed open the bedroom door. The room that greeted her eyes was rather simple. Other than a bed and the necessary dressing table, there seemed to be nothing else. Go to sleep. Dustless pointed at the soft mattress and turned to leave. Are you planning to sleep on the sofa? Erica asked after a moment of surprise. She was even prepared to sleep on the floor. After all, there was only one empty room here. You believe the words of that witch? Dustless curled his lips and asked disdainfully. How could such a large castle only have one bed? Go ahead and sleep. If you don't have a place to sleep, I'll take Lucurazia's room for myself, Dustless said casually. Poochie. Erica couldn't help but smile when she heard that. After glaring at Dustless, she blushed and said, We're outsiders after all. Guests should follow the host's wishes. Let's rest together today. Dustless was taken aback. Soon after, he asked maliciously, Aren't you afraid that before you do anything perverted to me, I'll definitely kill you? Erica warned fiercely. Her tone was a little awkward. Although she said it casually, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Who would be able to let go of a man and a woman alone in a room? Especially now that she and Dustless had only met once. If it were someone else, it would be hard for them to accept it. I'm going to take a shower. Dustless stretched himself and said lazily. When he was about to open the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. That witch's personality is similar to that of the witch, and she acted so quickly. Mr. God Slayer, don't speak to me in such a resentful tone. I'm doing this for your own good. That little girl has a powerful background. She's your only knight. You have no conscience. You should thank me. Lucurasia said in a resentful tone as if she were a wronged wife. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine. Do you mean I should thank you? Dustless resisted the urge to rush out of the door. He said in a low voice, your kindness is really unflattering. He might be misunderstood as a pervert or a pervert. Ah, that's not something I can control. Take care of yourself, young man. In my opinion, you and Kusanagi both have the potential to be playboys. Good luck. Look, Eurasia twisted her snake-like waist and left with a smile on her face. Ahem, Erica coughed dryly. She sorted out her thoughts and said, we do need to have a good talk. Talk. Dustless, who was in a dilemma, had to sit down on the ground. He curled his lips and said, Miss Erica, I don't think I need your help. As a god slayer, I'm the most desirable one for you sorcerers. Why is this guy so? Erica found herself speechless. She didn't have the right to negotiate with Dustless. She didn't even have a bargaining chip. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Dustless leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. After a while, he started snoring. This guy is really good at pretending. I've never heard of anyone who could sleep standing up. Erica snorted, looking as if she couldn't be fooled. When she was about to expose Dustless, she suddenly caught the mischievous smile at the corner of his mouth, which gave her the creeps. Erica's idea of teasing Dustless vanished. She might even lose her life. There was no need to take the risk. This guy was so weird sometimes. She'll probably come tomorrow. Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. He muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Chapter 14:10. Erica had to admit the cruel truth. If you didn't kill the gods, it didn't mean that the gods wouldn't kill you. If the two gods fought, the island would collapse. No one would be able to stay out of it. As the saying goes, when the immortals fight, the mortals suffer. Are you two still going to stop me? Dustless asked while lying in Erica's arms. You. Look, Eurasia sighed. She had to admit that Dustless was telling the truth. Erica was also speechless. She clenched her delicate hand into a fist. However, in Dustless's eyes, it looked extremely fragile. This world was just so cruel. Humans were as insignificant as grains of sand. Even if thousands of them died, the gods wouldn't be moved. They were just ants in the end. I'll go with you. After a few seconds of silence, Erica said with determination, You once said that the king and the knight will never be separated. What a stubborn girl. Hearing this, Dustless broke free from Erica's arms. Under Eurasia's shocked gaze, Dustless wasn't bound by the law of gravity at all. He flew up with Erica like a ghost. How did this guy do it? He only has the white horse power of Wells Lana. Where did this power of flight come from? Look, Eurasia asked with her beautiful eyes wide open. Due to the excessive shock, her magnificent cleavage was swaying back and forth, as if it was about to explode. Pervert. Erica snorted and glared at Eurasia. Her angry eyes were obviously saying, How dare you seduce my king in front of me? You'll be here for a few days. Ah. Young people nowadays are so petty. Good things should be shared. Eurasia chuckled. Erica's red face was quite cute. She couldn't help but tease. Goodbye. Wuchen turned into a rainbow light and disappeared into the horizon, like a meteor gradually disappearing into the eye socket. After Dustless left, Eurasia mumbled to herself, What a powerful and mysterious brat. This guy probably still has great strength. Maybe he can really slay a god and become a new surpasser. She suddenly felt that this boring world was much more interesting. How confident are you in taking down Mercado? Erica asked worriedly. After all, the opponent was a legendary god, and Mercado was not an ordinary god, but one of the strongest gods in Mediterranean mythology. How much? Dustless chuckled as if he had heard the funniest joke. You should be worried for Mercado. You should know that there isn't a suitable coffin on this island for him to use. You, Erica stared at Dustless angrily. He was about to become an enemy of a god, but this guy still looked so frivolous as if he was bullying a hooligan. Erica. The so-called gods are just a group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. There is no need to worry. Mercado is no match for me. Besides, he is not the only one who will die today. Dustless said ambitiously. Gods were superfluous. He had made up his mind to kill every god he saw in the future. He would purify the air. Stop right there, you idiot. Seeing that the distance between him and Mercado was getting closer and closer, Wu Qin raised his head and shouted. He didn't care about the existence of the storm. Your head is mine. After saying that, Dustless launched an attack with peerless power. A large amount of golden light appeared in his mythology, and some kind of power swept out from it. A mere human dares to stop the steps of a god. How dare you, a puny existence, speak rudely and call me a big guy? Mercado stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at Wu Qin. His eyes were frightening. Oh. It seems that you have some skills. This trick is not something that a normal human can have. Mercado looked up at the golden light above Dustless's head. Countless weapons were aimed at him. The momentum was quite huge. Gulp. What kind of god's power is this? Erica was also dumbfounded. Looking at the various divine weapons above Dustless's head, she was in a daze. It was the first time she had seen so many divine weapons. This is my king's treasure. The monarch's treasure contained many peerless weapons that could suppress a deity. Wu Qin did not say much as he explained indifferently. Have a good taste of the rain of bullets. He raised his arm and lowered it gently. Countless divine weapons shot out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Without exception, they all pierced mercilessly toward Mercado. There were so many of them that it was like a rainstorm. The dark night sky was suddenly dyed golden. Humph, I am a god. How can I be hurt by weapons made by humans? Mercado snorted disdainfully. His weapon, which was as thick as a scepter, swept out. Bang bang bang. All the weapons that fell down were scattered. They fell to the ground like scrap metal. The momentum of this magnificent attack was high, but the power was not impressive. You want to kill a god with this embroidered pillow? Human, there is something wrong with your head. Mercado sneered. He raised his strong arm and was about to wave the weapon in his hand to kill Dustless. However, he was surprised to find that his right arm could not move. He turned his head and saw that his right arm had been bound by an iron chain. This is really boring. Is the so-called god only at this level? He is as weak as a child. He doesn't even have the fighting spirit to move me. Chapter 14:11. Mercado looked at the iron chain wrapped around his arm. It was shiny and the surface looked like it was plated with gold. It looked very solid and hard. When did this guy attack? Why didn't I feel anything? Mercado murmured as he looked at Dustless. He pondered for a few seconds and asked, was the attack just a distraction? Your real purpose was to control me with this chain. When he was facing Dustless's attack, he was tense and didn't care about other aspects. Deceiving others. Stop trying to justify yourself. I didn't expect a god to be so thick-skinned. Mercado, you think too highly of yourself. Dustless said with disdain. There was no need to sneak attack Mercado. This guy was a big guy and his reaction was like a turtle. It was easy to deal with him. He could just use his advantage of speed to suppress him. Humph, puny human, do you think you can control me with this kind of scrap metal? Mercado sneered as he pointed at the light falling from the ground. It was obviously the weapon just now. He said with disdain, this broken weapon is a lesson. For a god like me, breaking it is just a small matter. As soon as he finished speaking, Mercado raised his sturdy arm and used all his strength to smash Dustless. Boom! The strange weapon also tilted down. The moment it was about to hit Dustless and Erica, Mercado's arm stopped above Dustless's head. What's going on? Erica was puzzled. She took the initiative to leave Dustless's side. She looked at it from another angle and found that Mercado was tightly bound by the previous chain. It was impossible to attack Dustless. A weapon that can bind a god. Is there such a powerful weapon in the world? Erica was quite confused. She was a knowledgeable person, but she had never heard of such a weapon. Compared to good separation sword, I trust Heavenlock more. Especially for you so-called gods. Heavenlock is simply a natural enemy to deal with you. Dustless explained softly. The moment Mercator was lifted up by the Heavenlock, it meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. His identity as a god had become his greatest disadvantage. The higher the divinity, the greater the effect of the Heavenlock. Tailor-made to deal with a god. That's the mortal enemy of the gods. Erica covered her mouth in shock, fearing that someone else would see her shock. You've comprehended it very quickly. That's what I meant. Dustless nodded faintly. To a certain extent, the heavenly lock was the natural enemy of God. Humph, funny. Mercado coldly snorted and laughed sarcastically. God's natural enemy. You're just a human. What do you take God for? This is blasphemy. If that's the case, then you can try to struggle out. Dustless calmly said. Meerkat wasn't strong but his temper wasn't small. I'll destroy this broken chain right now for you to see. Mercado clenched his left hand into a fist. Chapter 14:12. It was not that Dustless was looking down on Mercado, but the two weapons, Parting Sword EA and Heavenlock, were more than enough to deal with him. Other weapons were simply superfluous. Disappear. After saying that, Dustless swung the Parting Sword in his hand. The crimson, violent air waves raged on the front end of the big sword. Crack! 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 A very discordant sound came from the void. The crisp sound was depressing. The vast sky was as fragile as vegetables and fruits, and obvious cracks could be seen. Damn it! Mercado was full of regret. He tried his best to escape from the absolute restraint of Heavenlock. However, the iron chain, which was only as thick as his finger, was harder than anything he had ever seen in his life. He could not shake it. Poof! Mercado, who could not move his body to avoid the attack, was instantly severely injured. His abdomen was directly penetrated. The huge wound, which was 5 or 6 meters long, shattered his internal organs. He could even see the world on the other side through the wound. So powerful. He killed Mercado, one of the strongest gods in the Mediterranean Sea, with just one simple move. Erica's mind was in turmoil. Looking at Mercado who had been killed, she suddenly had the illusion that God was just an acquaintance of hers. He could easily crush Mercado with just one move. After being stunned for a while, Erica floated to Dustless and asked excitedly, "Did you succeed? Did you succeed?" Hearing that, Dustless just shook his head indifferently. He did not even look at Mercado's body. It was worthless and had no power to shine. You have been hiding for so long. Are you still not coming out? Ripples appeared in the sky. Dustless's voice spread far and wide. Someone is here. Erica immediately picked up her sword and stood in front of Dustless, full of vigilance. She looked around like a bodyguard. In Erica's words, a knight's duty was to protect the king. He has been observing for a while. I thought that when I killed Mercado, he would come out to stop me. After all, it was his gift. As he spoke, a purple-haired youth with a cape also floated into the sky. His calm eyes met Dustless's gaze. Even though he hid it well, the twitching corners of his eyes could still tell that the youth was not calm. The god of war of the East, Welslana. Dustless squinted his eyes slightly, and a hint of joy flashed across his brows when he recognized the identity of the young man. Dustless subconsciously touched the stone slab in his arms. For Dustless, Welslana was far more tempting than Mercado. In Dustless' eyes, the two were not even comparable. "You're really surprising." Welslana lowered his head. He had just witnessed the battle between Dustless and Mercado. Instead of calling it a battle, it was more like bullying a primary school student. "But I'm sorry, I'm not that stupid. If you want to kill me, you can't do it, young man." Welslana's tone gradually became cold. Compared to the last time they met, this time his tone was obviously heavier. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning suddenly flashed in the sky, and the thick lightning struck mercilessly toward Dustless and Erica. "Small tricks, use your own strength to deal with yourself." Dustless smirked. At the same time, he picked up the stone slab and aimed it at Welslana in the sky. "Don't mess around. If you use that magic book without permission, you may lose your life. I will not allow you to do so." "Never." Erica stood in front of Dustless and said sternly. "A human's body would definitely die after using the stone slab. Do you still think I'm a human?" "Erica." Dustless did not fight back. He pulled her to the side and aimed the stone slab at Welslana. He smiled and said, "This reckless guy is very arrogant. He deliberately left his power on the stone slab in the hope that I can defeat him. For this, he did not hesitate to give up his power. You are indeed very strong. I have to say, I did underestimate you before." Golden light floated in his hand, and a golden sword appeared in Welslana's hand. For some reason, he suddenly regretted giving his power to Dustless. This kid was a dangerous person with extraordinary strength. If I don't use it, it would be a pity. Dustless's eyes lit up. He made up his mind to use the stone slab, and suddenly a large amount of white light shot out. "Come and see, I will not lose to my own strength." Welslana roared. He held the sword with both hands and looked down at Dustless, or rather, at his stone slab. What a crazy man. Seeing this, Erica sighed softly. She moved closer to Dustless's face and sneaked a kiss on Dustless's face while he was in a daze. She left a kiss mark on his face. The awkwardness and discomfort on her face disappeared completely. Erica said seriously, "This is a reward from a beauty to a hero. I just want to say that I've been taken advantage of by you. I'll definitely take it back in the future." Dustless stared at Erica's curvaceous body and said, "Roar! Roar! Roar!" A majestic and scorching roar came from within the stone slab. Then, a large ball of golden flames whizzed out from within the stone slab. A large white horse made entirely of flames rushed into the sky, its entire body burning with extremely hot flames. Boom! 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 Welslana, who liked to fight head-on, was determined not to retreat. He focused on the incoming flame and raised his golden sword without hesitation. However, hope was beautiful, but reality was cruel. Welslana was immediately dealt a fatal blow. A pillar of fire pierced through him. Chapter 14-15. Yasukani no Magatama. Dustless quietly approached Welslana, and the distance between the two was very close, so the dense flashes of light did not miss any of them, and all of them hit the poor god. Puchi! 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 The power of the Yasukani no Magatama was undeniable, and the fierce light bullets all hit Welslana. As a god, he was not easy to deal with. Even though his body was full of holes, and there were burn holes everywhere, he still maintained his consciousness, even though he was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth. Ah! That's not easy. The body of a god is really strong. Dustless smiled lightly, and there was a frivolous smile on his face. Looking closely, Wellislana's body was like a hole, and Dustless even suspected that if water was poured in from one of the holes, water would flow from all over his body. Your vitality is really strong, as expected of a god. Dustless rarely praised, and if it was an ordinary person, their body might have been pierced by the Yasukani no Magatama. However, these words were extremely harsh in Wellislana's ears, and his eardrums were hurting, and in the end, there were even deep red blood stains. *****, Wellislana was furious, and he resisted the urge to vomit blood, and stared at Dustless without blinking. His eyes were as sharp as knives, and he wanted to turn him into a stick. That was the only way to vent his anger. Dustless was obviously mocking him, saying that only the weak would be beaten. It's almost time to end this. Dustless's eyes were cold, and he had no interest in continuing to play. Golden chains shot out from the void behind him, and they locked onto Wellislana like a poisonous snake. The glowing chain was the heaven lock that Dustless used to bind Mercado. This is the heaven lock. Damn it. Seeing this, Wellislana's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but step back. When Dustless used the heaven lock to bind Mercado, he clearly saw that Mercado couldn't break free. Therefore, he was in awe of the heaven lock. All gods would be locked down. The greater the divinity, the stronger the person, the more they would not be able to escape the nightmare created by the heavenly lock. Trying to run. Erika strode forward and appeared behind Wellislana. She stared at him unkindly and said, "Surrender. Your future has already been decided. You are nothing to be afraid of at all with your injuries. You. Humph. It's fine if that guy is a pervert, but even a witch like you is looking down on me." A murderous intent flashed across Wellislana's scarlet eyes. He was extremely displeased with Erika's attitude. It was fine if she admitted defeat in front of Dustless. He had nothing to say. After all, he was not as strong as Dustless and his skills were inferior. But you, a mere human, have to see who you're dealing with before you get carried away, God. Then I'll kill you first. With a ferocious smile, Wellislana's shocking hole was healed. Even the scars were not left behind. It was repaired in an instant. This seems to be the ability of male sheep. Dustless narrowed his eyes and said in realization. He was quite familiar with the ability of Wellislana, the god of the army of the East. Recovered. Erika said in shock. Her hands, which were holding the sword, were already sweating. I'll start with you. With a cold smile, Wellislana flashed and came in front of Erika. His golden sword had been taken away. Now he could only rely on his fists. But a god was a god. Even if it was just a simple fist, the power was extremely exaggerated. It was not difficult to severely injure or even kill Erika. When the fist was about to hit Erika, Wellislana suddenly stopped and looked down. There was a shiny chain wrapped around his waist. Do you think I don't exist? Get over here. With a gentle pull, Dustless pulled Wellislana over. The golden sword in his hand that had been waiting for a long time slashed out. Poochie. Wellislana's left arm was chopped off by Dustless. His face was in so much pain that it was almost twisted. Even so, his murderous intent was still locked onto Dustless. Why is it different from what I imagined? Looking at Wellislana, who was howling on the ground, Dustless frowned. At this moment, a fragrant wind suddenly came from beside him. He turned around and saw that it was Erika. Your face is frighteningly red, Erika. Dustless observed Erika with a head full of confusion. He was still fine just now. Could it be? Dustless's face lit up. He vaguely understood what Erica meant. Just when he was about to ask, he suddenly found it difficult to speak. He licked his lips, but his mouth was blocked by Erica's lips. Then a lot of knowledge about Welslana flooded into his mind. The world in his eyes began to change. It became golden. Countless longswords stopped in the air and all pointed at Welslana. Bastard! Smelling the scent of death that he had never felt before, Welslana struggled. However, the heaven lock was too strong. Even if he used all his strength, it was useless. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless long swords stabbed out. Welslana was like a porcupine. His body was covered with all kinds of weapons. A god of a generation fell just like that. The next time we meet, I will definitely kill you and your little lover. Welslana's body gradually collapsed and disappeared. He stared at Dustless fiercely, wanting to remember this hateful face forever. Idiot, if I can kill you once, I can kill you 10 or even 100 times. Dustless snorted, ignoring Welslana's threat. At the same time, a soul-deep exhaustion rushed into his heart. Dustless fainted without realizing it. Chapter 14-16. In a strange white world. Dustless was lying quietly. After a long time, his nose wrinkled as if he noticed the difference in this world. Although he was puzzled, he still closed his eyes. So soft. The soft touch made Dustless restless. He wanted to open his eyes and look at this strange world, but he enjoyed the comfortable touch and couldn't help but rub it twice. So soft. Of course, after all, it's me. But... A crisp and pleasant voice suddenly came, and Dustless opened his eyes. A pink-haired girl with a ponytail came into view. She was glaring at Dustless and said angrily, "But saying that your mother is so soft is disgraceful. What's more, he even had such dirty thoughts. How rude." Mother. Hearing this strange name, Dustless's mouth twitched wildly. He is also a person who is hundreds of years old, and his mother has always been Uchiha Mikoto. Who are you, little brat? Standing up and stretching, Dustless asked in a bad mood, "Give me a reasonable explanation, or I will let you know the horror of offending me." She dares to ask me to call her mother. Dustless got goosebumps just thinking about it. He really can't say such a disgusting name, and he has nothing to do with this girl. The girl is about 10 years old. She has a good appearance and a slender figure. If compared with the beautiful figures of Lucurezia Zola or Erica Brantary, she is the slender type. She has a cute baby face and figure that makes people want to praise. The girl's long blonde hair is parted to the left and right, and she is wearing a thin white dress. But compared to anyone else, she has a more flirtatious woman feeling. Little brat. Hearing this, Pandora suddenly pouted and said in dissatisfaction, "You used my leg as a pillow to sleep, and you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you called me a little brat. This is a serious crime." "Your name is Pandora, right?" Dustless suddenly replied as he stared at the pink-haired girl, a strange glint flashing in his eyes. The origin of the Godslayers was related to her, and the person who managed the Godslayer reincarnation technique was Pandora. "You know me. Who are you?" Pandora was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a monster. Very few people knew of her existence. "My name is Dustless, a man who is about to become a Godslayer." Glancing at Pandora, Dustless continued to lie in the unfamiliar world. He kept feeling that it was somewhat familiar. Perhaps it was just his dream. "Humph. Since you know that I'm Pandora, you should also know my ability. Since you know that I'm a woman who can give you everything, be obedient. Be good and call me Mommy." With her hands on her hips, Pandora said very seriously. She was in charge of the Godslayer reincarnation technique, and it was also Pandora who created all the gods' layers. No, no, no. I won't listen to you. Some things have no choice. Since you dared to appear here, you have to help me become a god slayer. Dustless smiled mysteriously as he shook his finger gently. As a transmigrator, he knew the inside story that no one else knew. You seem to know a lot, kid. Pandora frowned slightly. Even the lively and active her was a little downcast. The man in front of her was different from all the gods' layers in the past. His bright eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's thoughts, which made Pandora feel a little guilty. Even if the gods help humans, they have their own motives. You are no exception. Glancing lightly at Pandora, Dustless explained, although I don't know what you're doing, you should have checked my body just now. In fact, my body doesn't need you to modify it, and at the same time, I don't need the so-called power. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. Pursuing those powers is just to pass the time. Dustless gave an answer that made Pandora want to vomit blood. Her body trembled. I have so many abilities that I can't use them all in my lifetime. How arrogant was this sentence? This little brat has a lot of puzzles. Dustless's thoughts raced. He had heard many rumors about Pandora in his previous life, and some of the descriptions were quite accurate. Pandora was created by Zeus, the king of the gods, and the gods. The gods gave her perfection, but at the same time, they gave her the mission of bringing disaster to mankind. She carried Pandora's box to punish mankind for the sin of privately using fire, civilization. Pandora was also human, and the gods' actions were equivalent to betraying mankind. The god of disobedience was also one of the disasters, and the bottom of Pandora's box was the last hope. The god slayer should be the hope at the bottom of Pandora's box. Dustless had heard countless versions of the above rumors. He didn't know the specific facts. In short, he was sure that Pandora had a bad relationship with the gods. Otherwise, she wouldn't help mankind kill the gods. Of course, these were not important. This had nothing to do with Dustless. And even if he didn't carry out the reincarnation ceremony of the god slayer, Dustless didn't care. Anyway, he could use Rinnegan to control Pandora to carry out the reincarnation ceremony. Of course, it was only to obtain the authority of the gods. As for the change of body, forget it. Dustless didn't think that the bodies of the gods were more heaven-defying than his body of Jubi. Although you are very strong, and the authority of the gods is dispensable to you, at least you should respect me a little. Pandora blinked and said, her tone was full of helplessness, and she felt a headache. Dustless was the most heaven-defying and abnormal existence she had ever seen. Ordinary god slayers would be seriously injured after killing the gods. They would be infinitely close to being disabled and close to death. Only Dustless was an exception. Chapter 14-17. Pandora admitted that compared to other god slayers, Dustless, who was a surpasser, was almost perfect in all aspects and had the qualifications to negotiate. Who would have thought that he was even stronger? Moreover, Dustless was not injured at all and did not need to change his body. You're a little strange. After staring at Dustless for a while, Pandora finally gave a strange answer. There was only one outcome for an ordinary human who used the Prometheus secret manual: their entire body would collapse and die. However, Dustless used it without any adverse effects. Although you don't need to change your body, you still need to make some modifications to your body. Taking a look at Dustless, Pandora patiently explained, if you don't do the basic transformation, even if you kill a god, it's impossible to obtain their authority. Of course, if you don't care about those authorities, you don't have to. Don't want it. That's the reward for my hard work. How can I not want it? Upon hearing this, Dustless refuted. Then feel free to take off your clothes, Pandora said abruptly. Pandora said extremely abruptly. Immediately, Wuchen seemed to be electrocuted, and his whole body stiffened. Take off my clothes. Looking at her suspiciously, Dustless felt like she was looking for a lab rat to do an experiment. He had never heard of a reincarnation warlock taking off their clothes. You're a little special. Special people have to be treated with corresponding special methods. Do you understand? For example, you're different from other godslayers. After they kill a god, almost all of them are in a state of near death. If you let yourself enter a state of near death, I could treat you the same as they do. Pandora shrugged and said. Her tone made one nod involuntarily. You'd better not do anything strange. Giving a warning glance at Pandora, Dustless's threatening intent was full. No matter what world it was, or whose world it was, Dustless had the certainty to kill a person, even if the other party was an unfathomable god. Of course, I'm your mother. If you mention that word again, don't blame me for being rude. Wuchen said with an ashen face. Inexplicably, a mother appeared out of nowhere. It was a pain in the ass. All right, take off your clothes. Don't waste my precious time. Pandora waved her hand. She knew when to stop joking. Caw caw caw. After saying that, a wave of energy surged out of Dustless's body. His clothes instantly disintegrated into pieces and slowly fell to the ground like goose feathers. Very strong, your muscles are well proportioned. Pandora commented faintly. Then she said, all right, please close your eyes. Wuchen nodded slightly and closed her eyes seriously. Pandora's expression was serious and solemn. She didn't seem to be joking with her. Although this eccentric god seemed unreliable, she wouldn't fool around casually. Ha! Pandora had forcefully kissed him during this period of time. F***ck. Dustless cursed in his heart. After being in love for so many years, he did not expect to be schemed against by a little girl and even be kissed by her. The ritual is complete. Pandora suddenly said with a serious expression. Hearing that, Dustless was stunned. The hostility in his body also dissipated. He asked in surprise, the ritual is complete. So fast. Moreover, if it's completed so easily, what's the point of me taking off my clothes? Dustless's face darkened. He felt like he had been fooled. Well. Don't mind such a simple thing. Pandora chuckled and said, good boy, I'm your mother. Get to know your body. It's Tao Breaking 96, One Blade Cremation. In the quiet room, Dustless suddenly opened his eyes. There were still flames in his eyes. Damn that Pandora. Don't let me catch her next time. Otherwise. Humph. Wuchen gritted his teeth and said. Being chased and called his son, and being asked to call him mother, Wuchen felt a headache and was speechless. No matter the people in each world, there would always be a few weirdos. Someone seems to be grabbing me. With a strange expression, Dustless suddenly found that the quilt was bulging and he was sleeping on it. The environment was familiar. He guessed that he was now in Miss Lucrezia's house. 3 hands. Dustless's expression became even more strange. He suddenly felt that there were 3 hands grabbing him under the quilt. He was stunned when he lifted the quilt. Erica, don't hug my leg when you sleep. And Miss Lucrezia, take your hands away from my important parts. Wuchen raised his voice several decibels and shouted angrily, waking up the 2 people who were sleeping soundly. It was an accident. I couldn't help it. It's an unavoidable factor. Lucrezia retracted her hands embarrassedly. At the same time, she turned her back to Dustless and sniffed her fingers. She looked as if she wanted more, which made Dustless feel stifled. The smell of a godslayer is indeed different, Lucrezia said, intoxicated with herself. To what extent is this old witch's thirst? Wu Qin said with a face full of disgust. He had a new understanding of this weird witch's hobby. At the same time, the news that Dustless had become a godslayer was unpredictable to the whole world. After all, the birth of a new king was too much of a concern. It could be said that Dustless's every move had affected some people's nerves. Dustless was speechless. These two perverts never cared about the occasion. You're brave but admirable. Dustless nodded, but he had no intention of fighting. Although I am a warmonger, I am not interested in your authority. Therefore, this boring duel. I refuse. A strenuous and thankless duel is very disgusting. Wu Qin waved his hand and said with deep disgust. Forget it if we can't get any benefits from fighting for half a day. Dustless isn't interested in Athena's authority. This guy, compared to Dustless who remained calm, Erica was full of indescribable nervousness. There were even obvious sweat stains on both sides of her temples. Is it the Gorgon stone? Dustless frowned. He knew some secrets that no one else knew. That means you'll only fight when you meet the god of disobedience that you're interested in. What an eccentric godslayer. Athena said softly, and then her tone took a turn for the worse. You're looking down on me. Looking down. Dustless frowned. Although it was a bit far-fetched, it was an indisputable fact. It was because he looked down on her that he was not interested. Then what do you want? Dustless asked faintly. He had smelled Athena's hostility. Interesting. Athena's naturally cute little face had a playful look. Her body emitted a faint black light, releasing her godlike aura. Croak, croak, croak. The mirrors in the room, the household appliances, and all the wooden furniture were making a croak croak sound, and there were clear cracks. Is this a god? So powerful. Erica and Locorazia were embarrassed. Dustless, with his excellent vision, could even see the two girls' hair standing on end and sweat dripping down like raindrops. As expected of a god, but Dustless nodded slightly. Even he was faintly affected. But his strength was far beyond Erica and Locorazia's, so even a god's deterrence had little effect on him. It was wishful thinking to use this to force Dustless to surrender. But attacking my friends and knights is still unforgivable. Dustless's face was obviously cold, and his eyes were cold. Unforgivable. Are you kidding? God Slayer. The corners of Athena's mouth curled up as she sneered, although a god slayer can defeat a god, you seem to have forgotten one thing. Even gods have different levels of strength. Athena said proudly. She had to admit that as a god of the Trinity, she did have the right to be proud. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. Chapter 14:19. You are no different from the gods I killed. The only advantage is that you are prettier than them. However, Dustless did not buy it. In Dustless's eyes, Athena was no different from Mercado and Welslana. They were all gods, and there was no difference in strength. Anyway, the end result would be the same. You are very different from the other godslayers. The deterrents released all blasted onto Dustless, and an invisible force distorted his surroundings. Caw caw caw. The floor under Dustless's feet burst open. His whole body seemed to be hundreds of times heavier, and the ground collapsed. However, from his calm expression, it was not difficult to see that he was not affected. This is too boring. After a while, Dustless sighed and said, Now you are not at your peak. I don't feel hungry defeating you. Come and find me when you have recovered your strength. Dustless waved his hand and looked at Athena as if she was a noob. You. Although I don't know how strong you are, I am sure that your talking skills are profound and powerful. Athena's small face flashed with fierceness. Gods were not easily angered, but once they were, the consequences were extremely serious. You are just a god slayer. Athena raised her hand, and a purple-black high-density energy attack came at him. You want to hurt me with your filthy light? You are too naive. Dustless was not afraid at all, and then suddenly changed the topic and said, however, it is not a bad choice to use you to familiarize myself with Welleslana's ability. As for Mercado's power, Dustless had already chosen to ignore it. You little brat, you want to use me as a whetstone. Athena's mouth twitched, and she suddenly felt that this human in front of her was not an ordinary one. I am merciful enough to play with you. You should thank me. Dustless smiled faintly. A light flashed in his hand, and a glittering golden sword appeared in an instant. Then, he glanced at the purple-black fog that flew at him, and the golden sword swept out. Poochie! As if he was cutting vegetables, he crushed and destroyed them as casually as taking a stroll. That sword seems to be... Athena's pupils shrank, and her eyes became dim and empty. She seemed to have sunk into her memories. She seemed to be familiar with Dustless's golden sword. This is the golden sword, one of Welleslana's powers. Dustless looked at Athena, who had some impression of the golden sword, and told her everything with a smile. You have to be careful. Other than this clone, I have 9 more. You idiot, you'd better know when to stop. Before his voice had died away, Erica had pounced on Dustless with a dark face and covered his mouth with both hands. She scolded loudly, Are you an idiot? How dare you tell others about your authority? Your opponent is a god, and you can only win if you keep your trump cards. Erica wanted to cry. This guy was hopeless. Whoa. What was worse was that when her strength increased, Dustless's strength would also increase. Cough, cough, cough. Dustless suddenly coughed twice. He pointed his left arm to the sky and said, For victory, come to me. Undying sun, please bestow upon me the shining steed, the spirited steed, bring forth your master's will of light. Woo woo woo, the sky suddenly lit up. Looking up, under Athena's shocked gaze, a flaming horse's whinny resounded through the sky. It's those hateful horses. Athena said solemnly. Obviously, she had a good impression of this authority. Sensing the danger, she took the initiative to distance herself from Dustless. It's average, but it's not bad. Dustless said with a smile. To some extent, Ardent Sun and Athena were natural enemies that could not be reconciled. I can only take it head-on. A green-faced fanged shield appeared in Athena's hand. She raised it above her head. It seemed like she was going to use it to defend herself. Boom boom boom. The flaming horse charged at the stone shield with full force. The ground under Athena's feet cracked. The powerful force pressed Athena into the ground. Well, I said, if you want to take advantage of the situation. Athena interrupted Dustless. Her big eyes looked coldly at Dustless. His body began to change, losing a lot of water. You don't know how to be kind at all. Also, what's wrong with my body? Dustless pursed his lips. He had planned to go easy on Athena. After all, he did not have a deep grudge against her. However, Dustless found that his body was turning into stone. Oh right, this guy's eyes seem to be able to turn everything he sees into stone. Even people. Dustless was more or less interested. It was a good ability to turn an enemy into stone with just a glance. If he was caught off guard, he would be petrified before he could react. Get out of my way. With a roar, Athena's body exploded with a powerful force. It actually offset the destructive waves from the white horse. Athena even felt that it was unbelievable after it was over. Could it be that this guy went easy on me? Athena looked at the petrified dustless suspiciously. At the same time, dustless's body was gradually petrified. His lower body almost turned into stone. It was about to corrode his upper body and occupy it. Athena was both the war god and the goddess of wisdom. She could see through the opponent's personality and divine power. As the god of darkness, she had the highest level of power. She could control snakes and summon owls. She also had the power of the evil eye that could turn everything into stone. As the master of the underworld, she could use the death god's curse or expand the domain of darkness to block vision and create a shield. Let's stop here. Athena smiled. Just as she was about to leave, Dustless's sudden action stunned her. Chapter 14:21. In the long river of time, there were countless people who had left a deep impression on Athena, but the most unforgettable one was still the handsome young man in front of her. It was as if he was branded in the depths of her soul. Caw caw caw. Dustless shattered his petrified lower body and looked at Athena expressionlessly, not caring at all. Are you crazy? Your body will be completely destroyed if you do that. Athena said in shock. She secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Such a rash action was equivalent to self-mutilation. Crazy? What you think is inconceivable is just a small matter to me. Hearing this, Dustless snorted disdainfully and retorted, the shocking thing in your eyes is just a trivial matter in my eyes. Then, Dustless's body underwent an inconceivable change. Large amounts of white liquid flowed out of his body, replenishing the damaged parts. Athena could already guess what was going to happen next. This is impossible. Where did he come from? Why does he have so many abilities that even the gods are jealous of? Athena was confused. What happened to Wu Chen's body proved her conjecture. His broken body was restored to its original state. I am the same as you. I have an immortal body. No matter what kind of attack I receive, I will recover. Dustless didn't say much. He just explained indifferently as if he was narrating a trivial matter that wasn't worth mentioning. What is your name? Athena finally started to pay attention to Dustless. Dustless. Athena frowned and said without thinking, I don't think there is such a name, don't think about it. I am not a god. Dustless said disapprovingly. So what if he was a god? The number of gods that died in his hands could be used as a refugee camp. Your ability is also very strange. It doesn't seem to belong to authority. Athena guessed. She was a god of the Trinity. When she was the goddess of wisdom, she had the ability to see the other party's personality and divine power. With bright eyes, Athena stared at Dustless. Just as she was about to launch her ability to find out what was going on, the cold tone stopped her from doing so. There are some things that shouldn't be exposed. I advise you not to delve into it. Taking a deep look at Athena, Dustless said meaningfully. Are you afraid that I will know your secret and see through your weakness? Athena's eyes were full of contempt. If that is the case, God Slayer, you are going to be in trouble. Little girls nowadays, no, gods nowadays are really naive. Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, why is Pandora's box so popular? That's because every living creature has a curious heart. They want to know what's hidden in Pandora. Perhaps it's some kind of treasure, perhaps it's. But when they open it, they discover that what's hidden in Pandora isn't a shiny jewel, nor is it an elixir of immortality. Instead, it's an endless calamity and despair. It's the source of evil. Do you understand what I mean? Athena frowned. As the goddess of wisdom, her intelligence was naturally not for show. Are you saying that you are Pandora's box? Who knows? Shrugging his shoulders, Wu Chen gave an ambiguous answer, all in all, sometimes knowing too many secrets will make you feel that life is very torturous. Isn't it good to live in ignorance and happiness? That is you. Athena glared fiercely at Dustless. Although she refuted Dustless's ridiculous theory, she chose to obey in her heart. Understanding everything about Dustless's past might be a terrible thing. Go to hell. A large cloud of black fog emerged from her hand, and the surrounding sky was covered. Dustless was also in the black fog, and his body was corroded. The damaged body was endlessly repaired. Just like Athena, immortal and indestructible, any wound could be healed. You're too weak right now. Come and challenge me when you've recovered to your peak. Dustless glanced at Athena. He wasn't interested in her authority. Dustless was no exception to Athena's abilities. Want to leave? Athena was about to launch a large-scale attack, but she fainted without warning. Sleep for a while. Rinnegan emitted a faint ripple, and majestic spiritual power invaded Athena's mind. She, who was full of fighting spirit, instantly closed her eyes and fell asleep. Plop! Athena fell on the soft grass, and Dustless was nowhere to be seen. Next, I will go to Japan. Dustless whispered to himself. He originally wanted to see Luohao, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After the violent Bishop Luo knew that he had become a god slayer, he would fight with him for 300 rounds. Anyway, there was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. At Lucrezia's home. Is Athena done? Erica and Lucrezia asked in unison. They were full of confidence in Dustless. Since he could come back safe and sound, it meant that Athena had failed. Done. She is probably sleeping soundly now. Hearing this, Erica angrily picked up a glass of water and threw it at Dustless. Fortunately, his elemental body was able to dodge it, or his handsome face would be disfigured. Why don't you kill her? Her power is no less than Welleslana's. Erica's pretty face darkened, and she even wanted to pull Dustless over to kill him. She suspected, are you bewitched by her beauty? I just don't like her. Dustless responded faintly, and sat on the sofa with his eyes closed. No one knew what he was thinking. B** starred, letting a lady carry your luggage and not giving me anything to eat. You really deserve to die. Erica roared crazily, attracting the attention of a group of people who pointed at her and whispered. Dustless decisively put some distance between them. Does this guy have any gentlemanly demeanor? Erica was speechless. Realizing that she had lost her composure, she quickly calmed down. Where are we going? Erica approached Dustless. Resisting the urge to beat him up, she grabbed a handful of popcorn from Dustless and stuffed it into her mouth. Where are we going? Dustless listened. This question was really difficult for him. He shrugged and said, actually, I don't know where to go either. Pfft. The popcorn that she had just swallowed was spurted out in an instant. Erica's face and ears turned red as if her throat was blocked. She quickly grabbed the water bottle in Wu Chen's hand and gulped down a few mouthfuls of water, suppressing her murderous rage. Then what are you going to do? Sleep on the street? Erica only felt that the future was dark. This king's strength was not bad. As for other aspects, where to go is indeed a problem. Dustless nodded slightly, lowered his head and thought for 2 seconds, then said, let's go to Kusanagi Protector's place. I gave him a lot of money. He will definitely treat me well. Then, Dustless took Erica and ran to Kusanagi Protector's house. Dustless was still somewhat familiar with the route to his house. Kusanagi Protector. Erica showed a blank expression. There was no such person in her memory. He has changed from the first protagonist to the first passerby. Of course, you know him. Dustless chuckled. Kusanagi Protector had been dismissed by him with 10 billion yen. Erica and Dustless were not ordinary humans. After a while, they came to the door of Kusanagi Protector's house, but it was different from Dustless's memory. Did we come to the wrong place? Did someone die in his house? Erika was suspicious. There were wreaths in front of Kusanagi Protector's house. Obviously, someone had just died. This, Dustless stammered for a long time without saying anything. He didn't know either. Don't worry about it. Let's go in and have a look. Erika nodded and followed Dustless into the room. Who are you? A clear voice came. Looking around, Kusanagi Protector's sister slowly walked in. Her eyes were red and she was extremely sad. Dustless, however, stared at the portrait in the room in shock. F***CK, is it because my eyesight is seriously overdrawn? The one hanging on the portrait is Kusanagi Protector? Wu Qin said in astonishment in his heart, blowing up a violent storm. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.